When you have completed the front panel by sewing the 3 strips together, you are then ready to pick up stitches for the upper back panel. The instructions for this are on page 7 of your September mail out. It says with row 1 with right side facing, pick up and knit 91 stitches along the cast off edge of the front panel using moon yarn and 3.75mm needles. Now I'm going to demonstrate this to you so you can see it more clearly on a cream piece of knitting, but the way that I'm picking up and where I'm putting the needle will be exactly the same as on your front panel. First of all then, locate your edge stitch and take your needle through the middle of the edge stitch to begin the pickup. Now I'm going to pick up just below the cast off edge by putting my needle through the middle of each stitch. Now a knitted stitch is like a pair of legs or an open V here, and I put my needle right through the middle of that open V. In knitting you'll have an open V and then you'll have a gap in between, which is between the next stitch, and then you'll have another gap for the middle of the next V. So just make sure that you go into the middle of one, skip over the gap, go into the middle of the next stitch. So beginning at the side edge, I'm going to loop the yarn around, do that again, put the needle through, loop the yarn around and pull it through the work. Then I'm going to locate the next whole stitch, which is here, put my needle through the middle of that stitch and bring the yarn through. And you continue in this way, picking up the stitches as instructed on page 7 of your mail out. What happens when you pick up in this way is that you take the whole of the cast off edge into the seam. So you will get a ridge, a small ridge at the back of the work there, but when you look at the front side of the work, it will look like the stitches are continuing on from the piece below. I'm just going to show on a square here. This hasn't been sewn into the front panel, but it's a spare piece of knitting that I'm just going to show you here, where you would pick up where you have your purl stitches in your cable patterns. You have 2 cables, square 9 and square 3, where you'll have these reverse stitches. So it's quite simple. If you look very carefully at the knitting, you will see that despite it being a purl stitch, there is still the open V just above that purl stitch, so you can slip your needle, still slip your needle into that V to pick up. So just to demonstrate here, you're going here above the purl stitch in through the middle into exactly the same place as you take the needle when you're picking up across a knit stitch, like here. Now in square 3 you're instructed to pick up an extra stitch in the middle of the square. So you are picking up 14 stitches, picking up 1 extra stitch, pick up 15 stitches. To do that, I would suggest that you go between the 2 stitches. So instead of skipping over that gap, which is between the stitches, you take your needle into that gap and then into the next stitch, and then you would have increased or picked up that extra stitch.